Live from New York, it's the show that is power-packed with a bonus hour
on the front end
of content.
Usually bonus hours come on the back. This is a front end bonus hour.
I'm excited.
Absolutely.
First things first. Today, start with Jayson Tatum's new deal. 5 years, $314 million. The extension now makes Tatum the highest paid player in NBA history. That's pretty good. MVP odds. You would think it would line up there. Get paid the most? Should be right up there in MVP. Not necessarily. Joker, Luka, Embiid, and SGA tied. Then Giannis. Then friend of the show, Anthony Edwards. And then Tatum tied with Rick Brunson's son, Jalen.
Look at Wemby, though.
That's a cool
Nick
one for Wemby.
That's a good point.
I mean, I think
I
that's
didn't make
pretty
fun.
good
I made fun of you because you said block out the next decade of titles
not
for
yet.
Wemby.
I hinted at it. I didn't say full bore.
All right, can Tatum be the best player in the world next year, bro?
The best 4 players in the world are Jokic, Giannis, Luka, and Embiid. All right, and I think they're like on a tier. Tatum's a slight tier below them. And I've talked about it before, but those guys are all unique. Like, Jokic is the first point center we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Giannis is just a freak 7-foot athlete that unlike anything we've ever seen. Embiid is the best shooting big man ever. All right, they used to say that about Patrick Ewing. It's Embiid. I mean, true center. Yeah, I mean, take out Dirk and Durant and guys like that. And Luka is just a 6'7" point guard who is a triple-double threat every night and is going to score 30. I mean, we just haven't seen stuff like this.
Luka's the one that we've seen the closest to of them, but he's also probably the most dynamic offensive.
Right. I mean, Magic, but Magic didn't score like this. Maybe could have, but didn't. LeBron is a different, was more athletic.
Yes,
that was a big part of his stuff. But I'm not going to poo-poo this.
Okay, good.
I'm going to give you look, I don't think Jayson Tatum is the best player in the world, but if next year he goes out, he leads the Celtics in scoring, rebounding, and is close in assists like he was this year, and they have the best record in the league again, they win the championship, he's the finals MVP, because he got to prove, we think he's the best player on his team, but he's got to separate himself from Jaylen Brown a little bit. And the big thing, those are things, but clutch. That's one of the things that separates him is the clutch play. So look at these numbers. Ironically, he was better in the clutch early in his career, but remember, he probably wasn't getting as many shots, and the focus of the defense wasn't on him. He wasn't yet a superstar. So now, though, it's gone down, and the stars in the league's clutch numbers are better than the 30th percentile the last 3 years that he's been in. And here's the final thing. So he's got to be much better in the clutch. Tenacious defense. If you look at the players kind of like him, like Kobe, LeBron, Jordan, they were the best players in the league at his position. They were all tenacious defenders. All right, so he's a good defender.
Right.
But is he going to be like scary good defensively? That's a high. I'm giving him a tall order.
Well, of course.
But that's kind of what it would take.
Best player in the world is supposed to be a tall
player.
order. So I'm going to say something nicer about Tatum than you did on the front end, which is I don't think it's fair to include Embiid in the group ahead of Tatum. I don't think that's fair because the sample size for Embiid is now large enough of him not being available at the end of the year and him not playing his best ball at the end of the year that I don't put Embiid in that group with Giannis, Luka, and Jokic. I put Embiid in that group with Tatum, that next group of guys. So I don't have 4 guys clearly ahead of him. I have 3 guys clearly ahead of him. And I'm very glad I had the opportunity to say that nice part because the rest of this isn't going to be as nice. There's nothing he can do to get in that top 3.
Okay, then.
There's Wildes.
Nothing he could do?
So if he did all the things I said.
No, because Wildes. So where's your take on this? Because I have a feeling you're going to step in it, but I want to hear it. Do you think if they win the title and he's the best player, that's the claim?
It has historically been the claim that once you win a title, and it'd be helpful if you won Finals MVP, but you can take your game to the next level. And on this show, we talk about Anthony Davis a lot, where, hey, We thought that Anthony Davis was going to get that championship and take his game up a level, and he didn't, and that's one of the knocks on him.
Yeah.
So I expect next year to see a better Jayson Tatum than we ever have, and I think the Celtics will continually be good with their core. The question I have, not to derail your thought, but are his numbers being suppressed by how good Jaylen Brown is?
No.
And if they won fewer games, but he scored more, but it wasn't the way to play winning basketball, would he have a better shot at MVP?
Right. So I understand that argument in the theoretical, and I do think that applies to certain players in certain times, where it's like they are depressing their numbers for the sake of the team. But then I saw him in the postseason and in the finals. He wasn't sacrificing shots. No. He just wasn't making them. And so to me, it's not about Tatum's numbers not being good enough. We do have precedent of guys not only winning one title, but winning back-to-back titles, and no one's saying they're the best player in the world. Was there ever a moment, Brew, that the world thought Isaiah Thomas was better than Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson? The answer is no. He beat them both en route to championships multiple times. And people were just like, he's a great player. He's a Hall of Famer. It's a great team. Yeah. They're better. So it's not, it is, some of this is an eye test part of it. And I know that can be frustrating to some. I look at, to Brew's point, Jokic, Giannis, and Luka as just flatly and clearly better basketball players. And so when I said there's nothing he can do, what I'm saying is, if my basketball acumen means anything, there is nothing to me that is realistically available to him to make up that gap while those guys are still in their prime. It'd be one thing if it's like, oh, Tatum's on the upslope, those guys are on the downslope. Right. None of those guys are deteriorating. Luka's younger than him. Giannis and Jokic aren't that much older than him. It's not a LeBron,
they're all
Steph.
Still in their prime.
Right, they're all still in their primes. And so I have seen plenty of guys be great players, be the best player on a champion, and, by the way, win finals MVP, which he didn't do, but I'm not that worried about that. That's a series. And nobody thought they were the best player in the world. Nobody thought Dirk was the best player in the world after 2011. I don't think there was a single player on the Spurs in 2014 that people were like, that guy's the best player in the world. No, not Duncan, not
but
young
Duncan
Kawhi.
Had been,
Duncan had been, but at that point, no. So that's not to me, I'm not being unfair there. I look at the league right now as, if we wanted to tier it, Brew, Luka, Jokic, Giannis are in that first tier, and different people can argue 1 through 3. Then you have a group of a half dozen guys. Shea, Embiid, Tatum, Edwards, Brunson. I think that's fine. You don't have to include him in that. That's fine. I think you have to include Jaylen Brown there in that tier. And then you have this weird tier of the old legends, LeBron, Steph, KD, that on any given night, but over the course of a 100-game season, those are where all those people live. And I just don't think Tatum is going to jump into that top tier. I do think it's more likely Anthony Edwards does. Not next year necessarily, but because he is so young, that I would give more opportunity for Shea. Not because of his age, because he's actually older than people think, but because he doesn't have as much big game experience yet. We'll see where he goes. I think Tatum is mostly who he is, which is awesome, but never going to be the best player in the league.
Shea's interesting. I think he and Tatum are very comparable. I mean, different games, but I think they're very comparable. You mentioned Edwards, and one of the things about Edwards, I mean, obviously he's spectacular. You mentioned eye test, but the energy he brings. Defensively, he looks like he bothers you when you're on offense. And that's what you want to – and I don't think Tatum really even has that personality. Yeah, like, so, you know what I mean? Like that high energy, but that's the type of thing you want to see where eye test wise, you might say, oh, okay, he jumps up a level, but I don't know that he's going to do that. And on that team, he may not need to do that because they have so many great defenders.
But if he decided to get better this year, if he went into the lab, he's like, you know what? My goal is to be the best player in the league. So I'm going to expend more energy on defense and add a few more moves so I don't have to rely on my step back three that doesn't always go in.
It really could be just, I don't want to say eliminating that from your game, but some of the bad shots he takes, eliminate those from your game. And obviously he's got to be clutch. And a lot of these, I mean, he's missing shots at the rim that are somewhat contested, but those are makeable shots. If he improved in the clutch and became tenacious defensively,
it's on the board.
that's what he needs to do to move up.
It is very rare in the NBA, especially with the talent pool as deep as it is right now, when you're in a moment where you have transcendent, unique talents at the apex of their powers, for a guy who's just really, really good at almost everything to be at the top of the mountain. Jokic is, for the 100th time, I was late to the party on it. But I feel like I'm
he didn't say it.
But he is, Brew has said this for a while, with respect to the late, great Bill Walton, the greatest passing big man ever. And there was just recently a nice little graph about field goal percentage in the 5 to 10 foot range, and he's hidden off in the corner better than everyone else. He is a unique, never seen it before. Giannis is called the Greek freak for a reason because his strength, his athleticism, plus being a true 7 foot makes him unlike anybody else. And Luka has been almost solving offensive basketball since he was 15 years old playing against pros. It's going to be really hard for a really, really good 6'9", you know what I mean, standard basketball player to reach the top of that mountain when those three giants live there.
He would have to certainly win it next year, win Finals MVP, probably win MVP, do the things I said, clutch, defense, and those guys would have to be eliminated early again. If Giannis is eliminated again in the first or second round, and Jokic too. Now, Luka, I mean, all of them can't be eliminated that early. But if all those three guys go out early, then and he's dominant throughout the postseason again, then I think that makes his chances better.
Okay. All right. Celtics starting 5, bringing everybody back. Payroll now at $939 million in a push to keep the core together for a sustained run. Title odds, Celtics at number 1, then it's OKC, Philly, Denver tied with New York, and the Mavs and the Wolves. Are these Celtics set up perfectly, I added perfectly, to repeat?
Well, look, it's going to be hard because, I mean, this is the era of parity. We say that, but it's not just for fun. That's what it is. The last 6 champions, new teams, and we thought Milwaukee was going to maybe be a dynasty. We thought Denver might be a dynasty.
Some people stake their entire professional reputation on
2-0 against the Celtics.
And so I do think they should be the favorites because Denver is worse right now.
Yes.
They are worse than they were 2 months ago. All right, so there's that. OKC has had a phenomenal offseason. My only question, and I went against my historical knowledge in making our picks this postseason, because I felt, you got to go through something. In most cases, Minnesota was too young really to get there, and OKC, but I still picked Minnesota. And I think OKC, the only question I have about them is their youth. That's it. I mean, they were the youngest team ever to win the playoffs.
But they did get some experience last year.
Yeah. A little experience last year. Experience. But that's the only thing against them.
Better.
Dallas is definitely better.
Yeah.
And I think they're better suited to match up with Boston. I think Minnesota will just be better from the experience that they went through.
And we'll get better.
I think in the East, it's New York, in my view, because I hope I'm wrong, because I'd love to see everybody be healthy. So I hope Philly
got better.
They're definitely better.
Philly got better, and they have more of a margin of injury error.
Yeah.
Not for the postseason.
They don't have a ton of depth, but they're definitely better. I think Nick Nurse is a good coach. But right now I think Boston should be the favorite.
So here's the thing. So there is the very practical part, which is it was just kind of, sloughed off. Kristaps is supposed to be out for 6 months. That's Christmas.
He'll be back, right.
That's, you know what I mean? So that is, and I'm always a little hesitant on, this is, if the timeline is this, it's very rarely 6 weeks early, actually, we're back. But sometimes, and
he's had injury problems.
He's had injury problems. He injured one leg early in the playoffs. The surgery is on the other leg. So that now, the Celtics fans yelling at the screen, be like, oh, we just won the championship without him. So 100% that's true. You did, and it's legitimate. But that is already a little bit of a fly in the ointment, so to speak. The other piece of it is, we say this in the NFL, but it's true in the NBA as well, the copycat league part of it. The two teams in the league who, by a decent margin, shot the most threes last year were Boston and Dallas. And by the way, the gap between Boston and Dallas, 1 and 2, was equal to the gap between Dallas and the 10th place team as far as. So I do think it's not just J.J. Redick in the coaching booth this offseason that's going to be like, let's shoot more threes. So the reason I mention that is I do think that was part of Boston's regular season edge was they were playing the math game with a team perfectly built to do it. Everyone can't do that, I understand. But Denver was dead last in three-point attempts this year. They'll shoot more, just by even losing KCP by necessity. So I think Boston's margin goes down a bit in that regard. And it's not just history says that we're in the moment of parity, but history also says, man, repeating is so hard. Even though there's been a lot of NBA teams that do it, if you actually look at the trials and tribulations that those teams went through and that old Pat Riley disease of more thing.
I know, but everybody got more.
So
Jalen got his, Tatum got his, Derek White got his, Drew got his in the, a few months ago.
Playoffs.
So, like, everybody's getting paid. Everybody's getting credit. And can I show you something real quick?
Yeah.
You remember, like, we know the bombing threes, obviously, they were way ahead, and it gave them an advantage. But do you remember, I don't know, Dusty, when was it when I came up with defense wins championships?
Oh, it was years ago.
It's a long time ago, but it's really caught on because a lot of people just think offense, and I was like, defense wins championship. Top 2 in offensive and defense rating. It's the Celtics this year, last year's Celtics, and the last time it was done were the 2 Warriors teams. 3 of those 4 teams won the championship. So,
but you think that's a lagging or a leading indicator? You think that's if they have that again next year, then they should win?
Yeah.
I guess, but the
team is built personnel-wise. The team is built to shoot threes and play defense.
They'll be top 5.
Oh yeah, they'll be good. I mean, but the other, how much do you quantify hunger? That's what the disease of more is. Not just did everyone get paid? It's also do people get credit? It's also
do you get complacent?
Do you get complacent? But you can't tell me they're going to be as hungry right now as the Knicks team, as Milwaukee that just everyone's throwing dirt on, as Philly who's proven nothing, and then all those teams out west. Denver, losing KCP or not, Denver I'm certain feels like. Once Jokic gets the telegram that they lost KCP, he's going to be like, man, we really left a championship on, left it out there, and the other Minnesota, all those teams.
Here's the difference. Because I think this year Denver did suffer from the disease of more. Like, they clearly didn't look as hungry as a year ago. But when they won it, everybody praised them. Same with Milwaukee a few years ago. Everybody was, here's Giannis. He's about to take over the league. Then the same with Jokic. Now, I think this team has enough doubters. I mean, Tatum's got tons of doubters. That's true. Right? Still, like, well, we don't know how good he is. Is he the best player? Like, I agree with Wildes in that. I think Tatum and Brown together will be better next year because of the confidence. But I also think they're going to be hungry because I do think they feel disrespected. Everybody, even though the numbers say they're one of the best teams ever, we're like, no way. And even their most ardent supporters outside of Boston are like, no, I'm not giving them that. I don't care what the numbers say. And so I do, cakewalk through the East. Oh, next year, here comes Embiid back. Here comes Giannis. They're going to be just as hungry. I think it's the same thing for Kansas City. They got something to prove, and I think it's the same thing for Boston.
All right, the final topic of the...
We're doing some family planning, which is the family decided we wanted $5 to $6 billion. So I think it's something because of this. Even the richest NBA owners not enjoying the punitive nature of the new CBA when it comes to paying the tax.
That they
forced. And it's going to, I think, prevent the creation of the dynasties we're used to. So you have, like, I'm going to use the Clippers as an example just for a moment because they have the richest owner in pro sports. The Clippers in that long press release or whatever they say, Twitter notes app they put out there. Basically, they kept mentioning the second apron and the second apron, but that didn't really jive because they were willing to give Paul George 3 years. It's like, well, the second apron stuff, like it was, to me, they were using that as a reason to be like, we're going to make the team cheaper. The Golden State Warriors said on the record, the owner a few months ago, #1 goal is to get under the tax. The Denver Nuggets have the guy who everyone says is the best player in the world at the peak of his powers and are just not retaining key role players. The Boston Celtics are the one team. They're like, you know, we're going to keep everyone. And by the way, once these contracts are signed, I'm selling the team. So the point I'm making is we're yet to see an owner be like, I want to, except for Ishbia, I guess, but he's new, and I want to keep paying the tax, don't worry about it, and I'm not selling anytime soon. So I find that noteworthy. I find Mark Cuban selling the Mavs, as you know what I mean, Luka's entering his prime, and the Celtics going for sale right after winning the championship, that there is the business of the NBA, the reason fans should care, is going to start to impact really the teams that are fielded in the NBA, no matter how high achieving they are.
Yeah, and the owners keep doing this. Like, they put in these rules to protect them from themselves.
Yeah.
So I can't give so-and-so this much money. That's what they do. And now, like you said, in some cases it comes back to haunt them because you can't keep the teams together if you do have a great team. Now, their ownership group has been great. All right, they had not won any titles in the 90s. They come back and win in 2008, and then now they win this year. So they delivered 2 titles. Why it could be something is that if the next ownership group isn't this good, right? Isn't this sharp? Isn't this committed? They just buy it as an investment, but maybe don't want to spend the money, you know, annually. That's where it could hurt. But look, they bought the team in 2002 for $360 million. Now it's evaluated at 4.7. It's probably going to sell for more than that. Yeah. So I can't blame them they got their rings. They're setting the team up. They're leaving them in great position. And now we're out. We're going to cash out. And that's where you make your money, is the appreciation of the franchise. So I don't blame them.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.